Hello folks, my name is Mark. My peoples, where you at? This is Why I Hate the World. Lots of stuff to talk about in the world, but the first thing we're going to talk about is Florida. Florida has just suffered a pretty horrific hurricane season, with the majority of the state suffering horrific flooding and damage in the hundreds of billions. Not a good time going on in Florida. Recently, there's been two major hurricanes that hit within a week of each other. You had, of course, Hurricane Helene that hit in September. That was a Category 4 hurricane, which is gigantic. Hurricane Milton hit less than a week later. This was a Category 3 hurricane, although apparently it started out as a Category 5. And then by the time it made landfall, it was a Category 3. Still doesn't help that it hit less than a week after the previous hurricane. There was, of course, another hurricane earlier in the year, Hurricane Debbie. That was a Category 1, which at this point is like, who even cares? But regardless, people in Florida are hurting pretty bad. There is tons and tons of property damage. I believe somewhere around the area of 150 people killed. And not just in Florida, but all throughout the South and North Carolina and other places. North Carolina is like really just devastated from all of this. Just flooding inland in places where they've never had flooding before. And you would think, after all of this, that people would maybe start taking science a little seriously. See, because of course North Carolina and Florida and Louisiana and all these other places are red states, and they are filled with people who are in denial that we are currently living through catastrophic climate change, which will change the earth for the worse over the next 100 years. Up until this point, these people have been climate denialists. They've repeated lies about how it's all a hoax and blah, 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 blah. And it's really just a thing that the Democrats want to do in order to get rid of gas stoves and put us all in hobbit homes for whatever reason. They can never really explain the reason why that the powers that be out there would want to fake there being a climate catastrophe like this. You know, I never really get that explanation in the conspiracy theory. It's just usually them spouting bullshit about how it's all baloney or whatever, because that way we should just all buy gas cars and continue to pollute and allow oil companies to dictate foreign policy. But anyway, you would think after a massive hurricane, two of them even roll through town and bury your entire town under dozens of feet of water. They're destroying your entire, home and your livelihood and all that shit, and costing your state hundreds of lives and billions of dollars in property damage at the very least. You would think that you may start doing a little bit of self-reflecting. You may think to yourself, hey, maybe I'm wrong about there being a hoax. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe the scientists were right. Because the way that conservatives work is that they don't actually believe anything until it affects them personally. That's why Dick Cheney is pro-gay marriage, because his daughter is gay. If he didn't actually have a gay daughter, he wouldn't give a shit about gay marriage. That's why Nancy Reagan was an advocate for Alzheimer's. Treating Alzheimer's and stuff like that, because Ron Reagan was a victim of Alzheimer's. If that didn't happen, she wouldn't give two shits about Alzheimer's. That's how the conservative mind works. Unfortunately, it looks like maybe enough people have not learned that lesson yet, because what I'm seeing in social media is that the conservatives have instead decided to blame Democrats for controlling the weather. Here's a pretty famous video that's been going around Twitter. Let's take a look at what this Trump supporter here has to say about the hurricanes on the East Coast.
What do you think happened with the hurricanes?
I think there was an upcoming storm, and then I think government set in with whatever it is that they do. I don't know all the specifics about it. I'm not an expert in cloud seeding or whatever it is that they use to magnify the storm to a higher degree to disturb a land that maybe wanted for lithium that Harris's husband is partaking in. Or
So they made the storm stronger, so it would hit the.
doing with this one.
You think that Milton, they're making it stronger?
Went from a 2 to immediately to 5, like instantaneously.
You're implying that the government made a hurricane stronger to hurt its own country, the United States of America?
Correct.
And what would be the gain of that?
If like, there's been people out there, if they have an Alexa, I don't know if you've heard that, and they've asked what caused Milton.
Okay.
You can go on there now. It's already predicted the number of deaths and the amount of. It's already predicted it. You on a Google, it won't do that.
All right, now before this woman completes what she's saying, let's just take a minute and break down what the fuck this lunatic is talking about. First thing, okay, when she said lithium mines, the conspiracy there is that Kamala Harris's husband somehow is using the Jewish space lasers or something in order to make the hurricane stronger so that it destroys all of these towns in Florida. And the reason for that is so that he and his criminal friends can't come in and bulldoze this entire town because there are lithium deposits underneath it. That's the conspiracy. It doesn't hurt the conspiracy, of course. The fact that Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish, of course, doesn't hurt the conspiracy theory. Right? And, you know, if she wins the election in 3 weeks, get ready for 4 years of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about her husband. That's coming, folks. If hopefully she wins, that's a thing that's going to happen. So that's the first load of bullshit there. There is, of course, zero evidence for that. It's just made up horseshit. Something that some fucking Nazi just made up out of whole cloth. The second thing she's talking about there is, oh, well, I believe that they took a Category 2 and used cloud seeding in order to make it stronger. That's not a thing that the government can do. That's not possible. Cloud seeding is a thing that exists, but it has a negligible amount of effect on the weather. It's not 100%. And it's even something that you can take a little bit of clouds that are up there, and then you seed them using various salts and things like that, and then it causes it to rain. The current cloud seeding technology cannot increase the strength of a hurricane. That's just not possible. The amount of energy that are contained in hurricanes is something that we just cannot manipulate. You can't just go out and seed it or whatever with a couple of biplanes and some, like, you know, seeding salts and then suddenly turn the shit into a Category 5. It's just not something that's possible scientifically. And there's a video that I'm seeing flying around of a physicist named Michio Kaku. He's a science communicator. He's a legit physicist, but he's more of a communicator type. He's kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson in that regard. They've got the credentials behind them, but they're more famous for actually going around and communicating things about science, you know, on the news and stuff like that. And he, several years ago, was on the news talking about how there were experiments in using lasers in order to manipulate the weather. And this was, I think, in 2014, something like that. The thing is, experimenting to manipulate the weather and being able to turn a Category 2 hurricane into a Category 5 are two different things. Yes, there are experiments using lasers in order to, like cloud seeding, in order to get rain to happen, right? Over drought-stricken areas, stuff like that. That's a long fucking way from being able to generate a hurricane. And that's the thing with conspiracy theorists, see? The thing you gotta remember with conspiracy theorists is that they will take the smallest amount of evidence, or even something that they can perceive as evidence, and then run with it. So because this guy went on TV a decade ago and talked about experiments and controlling the weather, that must mean that somehow Kamala Harris has access to a fucking weather control machine. You see how that works, right? It's like the leaps in logic are just absolutely astounding. And that's all the proof they need. Oh, they can do it. I saw a guy on TV talking about it. That's it. That's what this woman is talking about here. It's absolutely fucking bananas. It's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But the video's not over, so let's continue on a little more.
If you ask it about Helene, it'll tell you the government actively used seed clouding. This is before Helene even happened.
Why would a country want to have a hurricane be strong and hit its own country?
Because they want to control certain places. And if you're looking at where the hurricane's going, it's a lot of red states. If you're looking at the counties in North Carolina that were hit, there were all of them, 26 out of 28 of those counties were for Trump. They're doing whatever they can because they can't rig the election.
Even control the weather?
Yes.
Now, two more things we need to talk about. You notice her proof that she said, part of her proof was that you could ask Alexa and Alexa would tell you. And then she said, oh, but if you Google for it, you can't find it, but Alexa will tell you. So Alexa, of course, is the Google AI bot that you can have in your house and you can tell it to play music and shit like that. But if Alexa tells you something, that doesn't mean it's true. Alexa gets its results from Google. It's the same company. So just because Alexa goes out, uses AI to find results for you, doesn't mean it's true. It's taking those results from models, like AI models created using Google search engine results. And that doesn't mean the things that it says are true. It means the things that it says are shit that it found on the internet. And in this case, Alexa is finding wacky conspiracy theories about hurricanes and then returning that back to you. So that's another fucking danger. Like I'm starting to see lots of videos like that where people are going to like Alexa or ChatGPT, or even ChatGPT says it's true. It's like, no, you fucking imbecile. Because AI says something is true does not mean it's true. It does not mean it's true. It's not intelligent. AI, ChatGPT, Alexa, it's not a real living thing. It's not a real living thing. It's an algorithm. It's a computer program. And the first thing you learn when you take any kind of computer programming course is garbage in, garbage out. That's what it is. See, AI is not any different than any other program. It works by setting parameters, and then you feed in data to it, and then you get data out, just like any other computer program. And in this case, if you feed it bullshit, then you get bullshit back out. And that's what's going on with fucking this Alexa shit. The third thing we need to talk about there is, of course, the idea that the government is using these hurricanes in order to suppress the vote, which is just wacky beyond belief. The Democrats, number one, are interested in getting more people out to vote. They always have been. There's been very little in the way of actual Democrats like trying to suppress voting. Now, I'm not going to say that it never happens, but not within my lifetime. I mean, I bet you could probably go back to the 1940s or something, right? And find Democrat, back when all the Democrats were like the conservative party. I bet you could go back then and find plenty of examples of Democratic vote suppression, but not in this election cycle or any election cycle within the last 50 years. No, that's not a thing. It's the Republicans are the ones who are trying to suppress the fucking vote. They're the ones taking away drop boxes and shit like that. They're the ones trying to kick people off of voter rolls, all this other shit. And the fact is, there's plenty of other ways that you can suppress the vote legally without having to use a fantasy fucking weather control device. It's just so fucking dumb. It's the dumbest fucking shit ever. It's just like, why would anybody believe this shit? Like, what the fuck happened to conservatives in this country where they're just so willing, ready, and able to believe horse shit without a moment's fucking consideration for it? It just blows me the fuck away. I think part of the answer to that is that the conservative Republican politicians are the ones who are spreading this shit. They're the ones who are enabling this conspiracy mindset for their fucking constituents. Here's an example of that. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yes, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. No, you fucking imbecile. They cannot control the weather. She is, of course, referring to the things I mentioned already. cloud seeding and, you know, experiments with lasers and shit like that. And another thing, of course, that she's referring to is HAARP. HAARP is actually the go-to fucking conspiracy when it comes to weather control. It's a thing that they've been talking about for as long as I can remember. HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, and it's a radar array in Alaska that uses high frequencies in order to study the ionosphere. But it's been a thing that has been in the popular conspiracy theory mindset for decades and decades and decades and decades, for a very long time. So we have here a couple of tweets that I want to show you guys. Here we go, more tweets. This is from AFP Fact Check. Post falsely claimed Democrats used HAARP to create Hurricane Helene and prevent Republicans from voting in the U.S. presidential election. Scientists have repeatedly refuted the notion that the Atmospheric Research Initiative can manipulate the weather. It cannot manipulate the weather. What HAARP actually does is that it can excite particles in the ionosphere, and that can sometimes cause things like effects that look like the aurora borealis and stuff like that. But it has nothing to do with weather control. It cannot cause hurricanes. It cannot cause earthquakes. It cannot cause forest fires. It can't cause any type of disaster like that already at all in the slightest. And if it could, we would never even know about it. Right? Think about it for a second. If the government actually did have a weather control device, there's no fucking way whatsoever anybody would know about it. It would be the most top secret fucking thing ever. It's like, no, these people are fucking delusional. Here's another one here for you. So this is a response, of course, to the video that we just watched that I thought was funny. From somebody named Matthew Cooper. Your ridicule and bias towards her is disgusting. HAARP. Sound waves manipulate water. Cloud seeding controls cloud activity. You know what they're doing. The human lives are a convenient collateral. The intent is to remove landowners from the proposed lithium mines. Yes. P.S. Nam. What the fuck is this guy talking about? You can see how exactly they jump from conspiracy to conspiracy. It's like it's HAARP, and then they're also using, you know, cloud seeding and all that stuff, and they're also trying to, like, kick people off of their land. Which, if they really wanted to kick people off of their land, they could use eminent domain. See, that's the thing. There already is a process by which the government can seize somebody's land. It's called eminent domain. Why would they need to use a hurricane in order to do it? Where it, like, fucks up the whole thing and destroys all the houses and kills people and causes, like, destruction of infrastructure, which is going to cost them all this money and shit. Why would they need to do that when they can just send you a letter saying, hey, eminent domain, we just seized your house? It doesn't make any fucking sense, because these people are lunatics. Next one we got here. This is also a reply to that video we just watched. James Weig. Project HAARP has been running out of Elmendorf AFB for 40 years. The project is to control weather events. Well, what this guy doesn't know is that HAARP was actually shut down in 2015 for military use and is now actually run by the University of Alaska Fairbanks. So the government doesn't even have any involvement in HAARP anymore. Like, it's true that in the beginning it had government funding and it was used by DARPA and stuff like that. You know, they used it to research things. Top secret shit that we don't know about. All of that is over. And it's been over for almost a decade. Yet somehow all of these people are like, it's still HAARP every time there's an earthquake, every time there's a hurricane, every time there's a natural disaster of any kind. A flood or a forest fire. Somehow it's always the fucking government and HAARP, when the government doesn't even fucking run HAARP anymore. So fucking ridiculous. One more of these. This is somebody talking about weather control here. Just wait till you learn what really happened at Acapulco, because I guess Acapulco got completely destroyed as well. Better than a war, use HAARP and no one could say it's because of it. It's a combination of 4 technologies: cloud seeding, next rad transmission, HARP, and high-powered lasers. They can all be used together to direct and intensify storms, but that's not just HARP, which is, of course, bullshit. None of those things can increase the strength of a hurricane. It is just not possible. Increasing the strength of a hurricane is just not possible. It's not something we can do, but the truth doesn't matter to these fuckwits. This one I thought was funny. This is Elon Musk, actually showing a little bit of sanity for a change. Nobody actually thinks Dems control the weather in Lamau. And you know what? It's true. See, Elon Musk is a right-wing lunatic asshole. Fucking racist and shit like that, borderline Nazi, but he's not a conspiracy nut. He believes in science, for the most part, at least when it comes to shit like this. Some reactions to his tweet here. Not control, but let's stop pretending that they aren't actively attempting to modify it. It's literally documented at this point as fact. Another response: no, they actually do, Elon. I have talked to a few on this app. No, Elon, they actually can control the weather, Elon. No, we know that you run a company where you put fucking rockets in space and shit, but trust us. We know all the real truth about weather manipulation. Don't you think if we could manipulate the weather, Elon Musk would be trying to monetize that shit somehow? The Democrats control the weather. Get the fuck out of here. How come only the Democrats can control the weather? There you go. There's a question for you. Why is it only the Democrats? I mean, Donald Trump was fucking president for 4 years, wasn't he? Didn't he have access to this weather control shit? So does that mean every time a hurricane hit Florida during the Trump years, it was actually the Democrats, like what, sneaking in to the control room and shit, right? Distracting the guard, like, you know, like Nancy Pelosi came in and she like put on a cardboard box, like she's fucking Solid Snake or some shit, and like snuck in the control room and then like set the controls to fucking blow up Miami with a fucking hurricane or something. What did Trump do? Cover it up? So we can't let our hurricane technology get out. We better cover this up. It's so fucking stupid. So stupid. I actually got some shit from one of my viewers here who was a little bit on the left, who got mad at me for calling these people stupid. She said I shouldn't use the word stupid because stupid and dumb and stuff like that, those are like ableist slurs. And to that I say, but it describes them so fucking perfectly. Can't we just redefine the word stupid to mean dipshit Republican? Can we just say that? I mean, I'm not being ableist when I call these people fucking morons. That's what they are. That's what they are. These people are fucking imbeciles. If you believe this shit, you are a fucking imbecile. There's just no other way to describe you, and I don't think sugarcoating it is going to help. These people need to learn the truth about themselves. Couple of more links here. This one was funny. Anyone find it a bit odd that these only hit red states? It's pretty strange that the South, that has been in an area that gets hit by hurricanes forever, right? It's strange that that area gets hit by hurricanes. That's where all the conservatives live. I mean, I don't know. I guess you got me here. Fucking imbeciles. So conspiracies about controlling the weather, of course, aren't the only conspiracies that have been running rampant during this last week. We have plenty of conspiracies about FEMA. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Association. They, of course, are the people who show up after there's a disaster near town to give out aid in order to help people rebuild their homes and give them food and water, shit like that. And apparently the conservatives and Republicans have been spreading lies about FEMA, and now people are not getting the aid they need. Here's another video that's making the rounds, which I think we need to watch. Let's go ahead and turn this on.
Management Director Kirby Saunders has been on the ground responding to many storms, from Katrina to Florence to Helene.
This is the fastest I have ever seen FEMA disaster survivor assistance teams in an area.
Most recently, he spent a week in Black Mountain leading an incident management team.
You get back into town and you see a whole nother storm on social media, on X, on Facebook, of this disinformation. Sure. What was your initial reaction seeing that?
I'll be honest, it was hurtful. It was hurtful to to me, to our team, to the great work that have been done in Black Mountain.
Saunders says the government is not seizing control of supplies or distribution sites.
Quite the contrary. The emergency response effort is working to solidify those sites, to support them and encourage them. They may be also having to look for sites to store the influx of supplies.
He tells me incorrect information not only hampers the response, it also has a mental health impact for survivors.
If someone can get on social media that's in an impacted area and they're looking for resources or help, and all they see is the lack of response, they're not here, this disinformation campaign is demoralizing to them. It sucks the hope from them.
Sucks the hope from them. So, unfortunately, it is worse than just people lying about where FEMA is and saying that FEMA isn't helping. See, that's a conspiracy that's being spread around by Donald Trump himself, trying to say, oh yeah, there was no fucking response whatsoever, trying to politicize the hurricanes here, screaming and yelling about how Biden and Harris completely botched the entire response and all this other shit. And that's one thing that has been getting people hurt. The other conspiracies, of course, relate to FEMA themselves, because, see, FEMA has always been a bad guy in conspiracy land. They figure pretty prominently in New World Order type conspiracy theories, and for a long time, it was supposed to be FEMA. They were supposed to be the people who were going to confiscate all your guns and throw you into a concentration camp. So the conspiracy people out there are already primed to treat FEMA like they're a villain. So now you're seeing conspiracies out there saying that, hey, FEMA is setting up roadblocks and they're stopping people and taking all of their property, that if you accept their help, then that means that they're going to take your house, stuff like that. And so there's people who are just not getting the help they need because of this bullshit they're reading on social media and hearing from ridiculous conspiracy websites and people on, Rumble and shit like that, spreading this information, and it's just getting people killed. It's coming from Trump. Trump himself is spreading this shit.
Or a catastrophe or a hurricane that we've ever seen, ever.
As of today, what has been the ongoing kind of federal assistance for South Carolina?
It's been superb.
They haven't seen anybody from the federal government yet. The federal government isn't there.
I'm incredibly appreciative of the rapid response and the cooperation from the federal team at FEMA.
I've lived in North Carolina for almost 30 years. I've seen a lot of storms come through this state. I'm actually impressed with how much attention was paid to a region that wasn't likely to have experienced the impact that they did.
The White House is doing nothing. They've abandoned us.
So I just spoke, the president just called me yesterday afternoon. I missed him and called him right back. And he just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that.
Those are all Republicans.
Wanted to bring that up here because it's a nice little contrast as to what Donald Trump is claiming and then what is really happening. So you wonder, how is it that all of these people believe all of this horseshit about how FEMA isn't helping them or FEMA is like taking away their property and all this other stuff like that, and it's coming directly from the mouth of Donald Trump himself? And then also other sites like Breitbart and whatever. There's an article that I don't really need to post it here. Article from Breitbart claiming that, FEMA was very late to the game in Helene recovery, shit like that. And it's just bullshit. It's hurting people because they're not getting the help they need. So here's a TikTok that's been going around that I want to show you guys, because this, I think, sums it all up very nicely. Let's watch this TikTok about somebody's father in North Carolina.
This shit right here broke my heart. So a man from North Carolina calls into the Dan Abrams show, and he said that he blames Trump for his father-in-law refusing to get hurricane relief help from FEMA. Watch.
Anthony in North Carolina. Anthony, how you doing? What do you got? Hi, Dan. Thank you for taking my call. This situation is actually breaking up our family. My father-in-law lives just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and he was badly damaged by Hurricane Helene. And he has refused all FEMA help because he's a hardcore Trumper. And he literally believes that if he accepts anything from FEMA, they're going to take his house.
Wow.
And my wife is, I mean, we're literally, I mean, we're at the point where, like, screw them. I mean, if they're going to listen to Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity over us who have his best interest at heart, or my poor wife is like, the hell with him. Screw him. And it sucks. It really sucks, Dan. And I don't understand how so many people are under the spell of this freaking con man. I don't understand it.
Well, it's absolutely heartbreaking about your father-in-law. I'm so sorry to hear it. I hope.
And it's hard to even imagine it. I mean, he lost almost everything, and he's refusing all help from the federal government and complaining to us that he doesn't have food, that he doesn't have the stuff he needs, and yet he won't accept the help. What the hell are we supposed to do? We're not in a position to be able to fly across the country and help him. Yeah. There's people begging us to get him to accept help, and he won't do it.
Wow.
And I guarantee you, I'm not the only one. I guarantee you, I'm not the only one.
I wish there was something I could say as to, I don't know. Does he have access to any electronics where you could send him some information debunking this, and that he might?
We've done all of that. We've done all of that. We've sent him all the FEMA bulletins. We've sent him all the stuff from the fact checkers. He doesn't believe it. He thinks it's all, he just believes Trump. Literally, Dan. It's a cult. He's a cult member. I'm sorry to say it. He's a cult member. And he's my father-in-law, and it sucks. My poor wife is just... Anyway, thank you for taking my call, Dan.
Anthony, thank you.
Yeah, you can hear it right there, man. The frustration, the anger, trying to help someone that you care about and you love who is stuck in this cult. Cult is the appropriate word. There is no better way to describe it. You heard what the man said. The guy doesn't believe anybody. He doesn't believe scientists. He doesn't believe people from FEMA. He doesn't believe other people in authority anywhere. He doesn't even listen or believe his own family when they try to help him. The only person that he trusts is Donald Trump. You hear it right there. And Donald Trump, he thinks, is telling him to avoid FEMA. And, FEMA's not helping you and all this other shit. Because Donald Trump is actually saying that. He's saying this shit at his rallies. He's saying, FEMA's dropped the ball and all this other thing, and they're worthless, and they're not sending people out. And he's doing it to his detriment, because the guy's in a cult. And it's really fucking disgusting. It's just wrong, Absolutely wrong. I mean, here's the thing, right? Imagine that was your father. Imagine that was your father living in Florida right now, and he is refusing to get help from anyone. Even you. He's not even listening to you, your own family. But he's believing what some fucking politician says on TV, who's spreading lies. People around the country face this situation all the time when it comes to their friends or their family in a cult, such as like somebody being in Scientology or the Moonies or some shit like that. It happens all the fucking time. But Trump? I mean, it's a cult of personality. It's a political cult. And it is a cult just as much as any of those other religious organizations are. This shit is dangerous, man. This is why it fucking matters. It matters when people with that kind of power are out there just solely for their own gain, spreading lies and hate and just conspiracies, because it ends up hurting people. This guy's father-in-law is a victim of Donald Trump. He's a victim of Donald Trump's cult. He's a victim of the cult in the same way that somebody who gets duped by Scientology is a victim of Scientology and ends up paying all of their money and shit like that and alienates their family. Or somebody who alienates their family if they're like a Jehovah's Witness. And like the Jehovah's Witnesses tell them that they have to like cut contact with their family or something because this person's been disfellowshipped. Shit like that. It's the same fucking thing. They're doing it right here. It's like, it's not a big difference between that stuff and this guy fucking like refusing to listen to his own son-in-law and his own daughter. And to his detriment, taking the advice of Donald Trump, who it makes it extra super duper ironic because Donald Trump literally does not give two shits about this person. He only cares about getting this guy's money and would gladly leave him out to dry. Literally would leave him out to dry if he could. It's really fucking wrong. And it's like, this is what happens when conspiracy theories run rampant. This is why it's so important to fight back against conspiracy theories. Because they can hurt people. When people talk about conspiracy theories, they always talk about it like, oh, it's just some harmless fucking crank. You know, that's just Jeb, the town crank, putting up signs in his front yard and talking about how the Russians are beaming fucking microwaves into his, brain, walking around with a tinfoil hat on, shit like that. No, it's not just that. It's not just some random fucking kook in your town being kooky. And, oh, just leave him alone. He's just got ideas, strange ideas. No. Okay. This shit can actually hurt people. It matters what the truth is, right? This is why you have to fight back against this. When people spread conspiracy theories, you have to stand up against them. You have to fight back. No, that isn't true. That isn't true. I don't care what you believe, but don't try to spread your shit around to other people, all right? Because it gets people fucking hurt. If you are an undecided voter out there and you're seeing this shit happen in real time, do you really want to vote for that? Do you really want to vote for Donald Trump after you've seen him politicize a hurricane, which has destroyed people's lives? These are his voters in Florida. Florida's a red state. North Carolina is fucking red state. Hopefully it won't be this election. This is like the heart of Trump land. And he's hurting his own fucking people for his political gain by spreading these lies. Do you really want that man in charge in the White House? I mean, I don't know, folks. Vote your fucking conscience, but please. Please see what's going on here. Like, don't allow this fucking man to become president. I don't know. That's all I got. Adios. Hello, folks. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.